Hey everybody, Bill in Virginia. Welcome back. So we are back over here in the center module, and you can see I have some woodland scenic foliage mats out here, and quite the mess. So I've been pulling them apart. So what I've been doing so far is I've been placing some of the pieces up on the scene back here. Now they are not glued in place yet. I will glue these here fairly soon. But I wanted to use some of the mats to give me a base where I can, again, build them up and I can put in some super tree material like what I've done over on, areas over in here. Also, that'll help me finish up along the edge for the backdrop. It takes away a little bit of the cliff face, but not much. It gives it more wooded and more interest, at least into my eyes here. So I will get those glued in place, and then I'll come back in and I'll add some grass tufts and a little bit of dirt in some of the little ledge areas there, and then like over here where it goes back a little ways. Put in a bunch of those details to kind of finish these areas off. And then I can move on to do some other things. And one other thing that I need to do that I just noticed is I did not put static grass on those two trees. So before I go too far and start gluing things in place, I'll take those out and I will apply some static grass. I can kind of remember, I put them in place after I got this done and I started to build it out, but just did not go back in to finish it. So I will get that done here as well. So stay tuned, more scenery coming. Well, Friday evening after work, and just started to get the gluing done to glue that foliage mat in place in the different spots. So I'll let that sit for just a little bit, and then I will come back in and start adding my filler. Might set up the tripod so you can just see what I'm doing over like on that area as I'm kind of working in materials to kind of build up the layers. But let's get started here. So rather than do the other cliff, I'm going to do this little spot here, and then I can go on. It's just a little bit clearer, you can see it. And I will, I'm going to dedicate this episode to this spoon. This spoon has been doing all of my scenery work on this layout, and it was doing the ballast on the N scale layout. I've not changed spoons through all of the construction for about 2 years now. I will keep this, maybe make a little plaque just for the old you-know-whats and giggles to post. But anyway, let's get started. So you can see I've got carpenter's glue down. Again, I like working with the carpenter's glue. It is just stickier. I could use white glue on this, but there'd be a lot more opportunity for runs if you just put a little dab of carpenter's glue, smear it around. It doesn't flow too much. So what I'm going to do first is I'm just going to take basically burnt grass and kind of come over it just to kind of get some of this burnt grass into the foliage. Essentially, I'm covering the carpenter's glue where it's poking through. This is just a light dusting, just to kind of get the texture started where I'm starting to build it up, just to make sure that everything's covered. And then I'm going to come back in. So I've got that part, and I'm going to come back in. I'm going to spray it down with isopropyl alcohol. And it doesn't have to be a lot, just a little bit. What that does is it gets the fibers ready for dilute white glue. And I use 50-50. Probably help if I'd open it up a little bit. There we go. And I'm not applying a lot. I'm just kind of running a bead in, letting it soak in to the material here. Kind of let it go, and if I get a little bit of a run, no big deal. I can get that later. Okay. Give it a little, just to kind of help it settle. That gets it ready for putting in more coarse turf. So the coarse turf will go on and it will have a place to stick. This is why I always like to work top to bottom, because stuff is going to fall, and a lot of times I can just leave it on the lower level so that I can use it as ground cover or mix in when I'm doing other things. I don't necessarily vacuum it up. You know, I kind of let it go where it's going to go, and we'll go from there. So we got that. You can already see where it's starting to build up. It doesn't take long, doesn't take much. Now I'm going to be using earth coarse. So basically, looks like more older, not necessarily dying vegetation, but gives it a little bit more of a texture to it here. And you don't need to put everything on every place. You want other colors to kind of come through. And you can already see it's building out. And just, I'll put in enough so that it'll glue things down. I don't want it to be too excessive where I'm getting glue running all over the place. So, it just takes a little bit of practice. And we get that there. All right. Then we can come back in with a little bit more of the light green turf. And what I will do when I get all of this done is I'll get out some more super tree material, and I'll kind of come back in and we'll put in a little bit more of that here and there. You just want to put it in where you think it's going to go. You can see it grabs. The glue will soak into everything. Not putting a lot of isopropyl alcohol or glue on, but just enough. Okay, there we go. Now I'm going to top that off with a little bit more of the burnt grass, just to go on top of everything else. Light coating. Make it look like I've got some leaves on this. And bump my camera all over the place. There we go. You notice I don't put much onto the spoon. I'm just sort of a little bit of a shake on it, getting what I want off, moving to the next. Now I'm going to go and I'm going to get some of my haircut material and put on a few spots here, as well as some of that green. So I don't need a lot of this. Just put it in a few little areas, mix it up, kind of press it in so that the glue will flow into this stuff. Just want to make it look like little bits of briar and bramble underneath. And as I'm pressing it down, I can feel the glue. So by the time this all sets, it's pretty good. It's not going to go anywhere. And I also use this really as my key anchor point for the super tree material, because it tends to bite in to this stuff pretty well. It gives me a nice little glue point. So I'll just kind of put that up. Now, again, a little bit more. Add it to where I put in this material here. Okay. Now I'm going to use some of the green, excuse me, that I've been using for the pine trees. Get a little bit brighter green, just to kind of cover some stuff. My little world, it is spring going into summer. Everything is bright green. Peak of growing season. So there we go. And boom. Now I'll let that sit for a little bit, and then I can go on to the next step. So that little piece is done. I will, well, not completely done. I will get super tree material out, add a few little sprigs, and then let the glue dry on it, and then I will turn my attention over to here and do the same thing in that area. And then I can start planting grass on the cliffside in some of those locations where it needs grass yet. So back over, and I've got just a piece of super tree material, and I have hosed it down with my Max Hold hairspray, you know, and then put some actually burnt grass and some other little blends that I have on this. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to take needle nose pliers, and I'm going to come in and I'm going to take a sprig off, you know, no real bigger than that. Use my fingers, kind of adjust it how I want it so I've got the best side facing out. And then I'm going to come in and I'm going to press it in, pull it away, and it's in place. It's kind of hard to see just at this angle, but I'll show you what it looks like here in a minute. Same thing, I'll take another sprig. I'm using the bigger ones where I've got the thicker piece of the material that I put in earlier. And since everything's wet, it will grab it and hold it in place once I'm done. So let's see some more here. And I'll take off a big sprig, and then I'm just going to take it down into small pieces that I can use in some of the small areas. So just kind of pull it off, bring it over. More pieces here. Let's see what I want. Take off this one here. Nice straight piece. A couple of small pieces. Let's get them put in place. So they'll go over. And let's do this one next. There we go. Another chunk. So you get the idea of how this goes in. It goes in nice and easy, looks decent. So I will show you how it looks from down below, and then I'm just going to go on and I'm going to start putting in other stuff. So here's how that looks now after just putting in those few sprigs. You can kind of see how it's like in the other areas, gives that nice little brushy appearance. I'm going to add a couple of more, and then I will call that one good, and then I will do this one over here, and then I'll come back and take a shot of my after picture. All right, this piece is done, the same as I just did in the other segment here. So a little bit of texture added, some of the super tree little sprouts. Did put a little bit of debris kind of coming down that wash, and added just a little bit of debris coming down that wash as well. And I will come back in and add in some grass. And I think after I add the grass, that will do it for this video. So just a nice little area for scenery. So let's kind of pull back a little bit here, make sure I don't trip and fall on my keister. But you can kind of see how this is all looking. And of course I've got my Diet Coke product placement, you know. Anyway, yeah, I like how that looks. It definitely looks like mountains in early summer. So let's get some grass in and we'll wrap this one up. So for this little piece, I'm going to show just how I plant my grass tufts. You can see a variety of them right in here and some other areas that I've put in just now. So what I do, just a little spot of wood glue, just enough to grab it. Then I take my grass. I'm not going to put that on. I'll show you what I do is I just take a little pinch. I'll show you what the size of it is when I've done. Yeah, and really, this right here is all I need. It's just a small little pinch. I'll put it in. I'll wiggle it just a little bit so that the bottom of the grass will stick. Now that one, I need a little bit more. So again, I'm coming in with my big chunk and just pulling off a little piece, and then I'll make it even smaller. I'll try to get the grass to align so that they're all basically, in one direction on these. And then just come in again, up and down a little bit, put it in. Grass tuft is in place. Then I'm going to take a little bit of my burnt grass, and I got my spoon in there, and then I'm going to come in just over the top of the grass a little bit, just to kind of let it filter through. This will cover the glue, and you can use whatever color works for what you're doing. A lot of that powder will stay in the grass tuft, and over time, as you're bumping your layout and whatnot, it'll kind of settle. So it'll look like grass, and other weeds out there. So that's just a short one on how I put in every one of those tufts. It's all just a little pinch that I work to get into that. All right, I think this is going to wrap up the video. You can see where I added grass tufts on that cliff face there. Added a little bit more there, and then over here where I was just at, see I've got grass tufts kind of coming down along that crack. So yeah, I've got a fair amount done. It's what I wanted to do on this little piece. And well, product placement, there's my Coke again. And no, they are not paying me money. I just enjoy Diet Coke. Anyway, that's gonna do it. So keep having fun on your layouts. Until next time.